Good morning and welcome to Grandma's Nutritional Garden. We really hustled to get some plants in the ground yesterday because it was supposed to storm last night. And we have had nothing but wet soil to work with recently. So yesterday was finally dry enough to get some plants in the ground and get us hustling. I want to stop and show you the blueberries real quick so you can see how amazing they're doing. They are just loaded with berries. Can you see the berries on there? They're beautiful. They're just loaded. Just lots and lots of berries. So as we pass by the berries, you can see that the garden has changed landscape just a little. You see all those cages out there. I think you can see them. So we got 16 tomatoes put in the ground and several different varieties. We have the Fox, which is my favorite tomato, my whole family's favorite tomato. It's a small tomato, maybe not quite cherry size, but it's a really fabulous tomato. It seems to produce no matter what the weather, what kind of bug infestation I have that year or whatever. So we have this beautiful Fox tomato that looks like it's doing really well. So I'll show you this one and then I'll tell you what other varieties I have. That's my Fox tomato, and I'm really excited for it to get going for you. And you can use anything you want. I have those little clay markers. I broke a clay pot, so that's what I use for markers this year. So I don't know if you can see all of the cages, but they're just cattle panel, really strong cattle panel, because they will not blow over. Any tomato cage that you buy at a big box store or garden store are typically those really flimsy little things, and they just simply don't work. They will blow with your tomato all the way over. Here I have a marker. You can see this marker, and it's marking where I planted some basil because I like to intercrop my basil with my tomatoes because the basil just seems to do really well with the tomatoes. It helps them grow, keeps some pests off, adds to some flavor. So I've done that often. Occasionally I don't plant them with them. However, I will leave some of the cilantro in. If you notice, we didn't have time to get all the cilantro out yesterday because we were rushing to beat the rain. And so I will leave some of that cilantro in because I've noticed that with the cilantro, I typically only have a couple, 2 or 3 little tomato hornworms to deal with. And when I don't put the cilantro in, or before I started using the cilantro, I was getting multiple, and I would go twice a day and go pick all those bugs off. And you have to get them picked off or they will absolutely decimate your tomatoes. So that's one of the things that we got done. And I'll go back to the tomatoes in a second, but while I'm here, I thought I would show you the radishes. So if you notice, there's some radishes missing. I've been harvesting. And then the white icicle radishes are not quite ready yet, but I can see some shoulders popping up on those as well. Then right next I have 2 little bitty small rows that I planted bush beans in. It's a Jacob's cattle bush bean, and they are just so pretty. I really, really enjoy planting those. And I'll probably plant bush beans throughout most of the garden. And then back to the tomatoes. So I have several varieties of tomatoes. I have Granny Cantrell, a Purple Russian, the Brad's Atomic Grape Tomato, Roma tomatoes, the Fox that I told you about is my favorite, Vincent Watts, and a couple Cherokee Purple. So that's what's planted in here. I think it's just one Cherokee Purple actually. So I have a little bit of everything. I have probably 2 or 3 Aromas and 2 or 3 Fox because those are my favorites, and 2 or 3 Brad's Atomic because they're just special and I can't wait to see how they look. They're supposed to be absolutely stunning. So we'll see how they look when they start growing. This is how most of the basil is in the garden, interspersed with the tomato. So there's only 2 or 3 seeds in there so that they don't take over. I need plenty of room to get in and be able to harvest the tomatoes. But I also have more in here. And basically what I did was I tried to make it so that the seeds wouldn't wash away if we got that incredible storm we were supposed to get last night. But thankfully, it was just a very gentle shower. So next to the tomatoes, This is where I'm going to be planting the peppers. And I have one pepper in, and we've got room to put a couple more peppers in. And then we will have to clean the rest of those weeds and cilantro out in order to plant any more. And so we'll be working on that today. And then I have over in the corner, I have corn. So if you see those markers, those are actually leftover sunflower stalks. So they just kind of dry up and they're hard to burn, hard to compost. So I just use them as markers. I use them a lot in my garden, and they're fantastic. I don't need to do anything else. They work really well. So next to the corn, lots and lots of cilantro that I have to be worked out today. And you can see where I tried to put that trellis up by myself, and it just did not work. So my brother's going to come over and help me do that later on today. So we'll get everything cleaned up and get the 3 bean trellises up and hopefully planted today. The ground is drying out really nicely, so I think we'll be able to get in here and work it pretty well this afternoon. We've got to get everything planted because we're expecting some good storms again this weekend. So we've got to get going and get stuff in. And the weather's supposed to be in the 80s and upper 80s later this week. So here are the peas. They're doing really well. I finally did get this trellis up. So they're doing well, just starting to go. I have this little building trellis that I really love. And last year, I put beans on there. It was completely overwhelmed by the beans. So I thought the peas would be a much better choice for that beautiful trellis. So these are the Amish peas. You see how much they've grown here recently. And they are starting to grow up the trellis. So things look great. They haven't blossomed yet, but they look good. And then we have the Tom Thumb peas. And the Tom Thumb peas are just full of blossoms. I seriously try not to move too fast because sometimes that can make you crazy. So, do you see the blossoms on there? So, yeah, they look really, really good. And see, they don't get very big, and they will blossom and put out peas. And I really, really like the way they produce. So they're one of my favorites because they don't require a trellis, and they're still amazing. And I suppose you could put a really small trellis and they'd probably like that just as much, but it's not necessary. So over here in the asparagus, I harvested a huge amount of asparagus yesterday. So we'll be having asparagus and roasted radish tonight for dinner. The radishes have been doing really well. I've been getting a lot of red globe radishes, and I'm very, very happy with how they've done so far. The grapes are still looking fantastic. They look really good. All of them have grapes on them. So I'll have to start training them up. They're about ready to start spreading onto the wires. This is my crazy choco mint. And if you notice, I'm going to have to harvest that very quickly because it is in the bucket that I really thought that I burned this mint earlier this year when I was burning off the asparagus. And it looks fantastic. So really, really, really good. And then you have the flowering chives. Don't they look pretty? The bees love those. So when the bees are out later today, they will be all over the chives. And then the others that I use for harvesting still look great. They need a little haircut, but they're doing great. So that's about it. That's the update. So I hope that you enjoyed. If you have any comments or anything, please leave me a comment. If you have any questions or you have any ideas, I would love to hear them. Just stay happy, keep gardening, and we'll catch you later.